So this is a video I've been wanting to make for a while, and I think it kind of needs to be said that a lot of the advice that you're getting online for investing makes no sense, and the rationales that they're making make no sense. So let's set this up. Let's say you are 30 years old, you want to retire at the age of 60. Your wages currently are $100,000 a year. Your wages are going to go up 4%. Inflation is 4%, and when you retire, you're going to take 5% of your investment funds out for retirement. So obviously, I just criticized the assumptions, and these assumptions can be criticized as well. But it's good enough to kind of explain the problem with the advice you're getting online. So you're 30 years old, you're going to retire at 60, you're making $100,000. How much do you need to be putting away? So the first thing as inflation goes up, if you're 30 years old, it's kind of hard to comprehend, but you need $324,000 a year when you turn 60 to have the same income today making $100,000. So I call it free fall investing. So the number that you have to concentrate on is the amount of money that you need to replace your income. So you need an asset base that will give you $324,000 a year. And it's not necessarily just adding, a lot of examples is compounding. So put in this and put in this, Dave Ramsey likes to say, pay all your debt off, but you do whatever you need to do to get to the amount of assets that you're going to need. So if you're going to withdraw 5% out of your asset base to recreate your current $100,000 income, which is your future $324,000 of income, you're going to need $6.5 million. So what you need today, your asset base is substantially less than what you think you need. But you need an asset base that free falls you into the standard of living that you're going to need. So let's say, okay, so what would free fall you in there? So one thing that would free fall you in, let's just assume you have $25,000 in stocks and bonds or investments or whatever you have. And whatever you have needs to be making about 10% because that's our other given that we have here. So you would need today $381,422.78. You would need to put that in the bank today. If you put that in the bank today, you would retire at 60 and you'd have $324,339 every year. You could pull out 5% and you would have that every year. And most likely 5% is low, so your assets would still continue to grow. Well, what if no one's gifting you $381,000? So what are you going to have to do over your lifetime? So over your lifetime, you would have to put in this year, you'd have to put in $25,554. And that would then need to grow per inflation by 4%. So next year would be 25,000, then 27, 28, 29, 30. So basically the 25. So if you're making $100,000, you have to put in 25% of your income starting at age 30. Well, obviously everything changes depending on the age that you start this at. That is probably substantially higher than you're estimating. And it also, like many of the advice is that you get, the compounding is a benefit. You could put in the 381 now, which is only, if you're putting 25,000 in, it's only it's only a few years instead of your entire lifetime. But so if you just think of, I need my investments to free fall me into retirement. I got to put in enough to where they can compound. A lot of times you're getting advice that, well, just, put in whatever you can at the beginning and let it compound. But that will not get you there. You have to get your assets to snowball to a large enough number to where they will accumulate the amount of wealth you need to retire. And you've got to get to that magic number where the snowball is big enough to keep going. Hope that makes sense.